The markets are mixed, and Tesla is flattish, mostly up, occasionally dipping slightly below a break even. The market doesn't seem to know what to do with the inflation report today. It came in as expected, actually a little tiny bit lower on the core than some expectations, but it was still up compared to last month. But then you have to take into consideration that last year was a particularly difficult comparative month. Well, when you add all that up and you subtract and you try to figure out how that should all be impacting your future plans with regard to inflation, well, the bond market has decided it wasn't that great. So we got the 10-year bond yields are up this morning. And as I mentioned, the markets seem to be wandering around trying to figure out what to do about it. Tesla has mostly good news, but we're only a week and a day away from earnings. So I think most of the folks who trade Tesla, who are trying to make decisions about getting into Tesla, maybe as a permanent investment, add more to their position, maybe looking towards that earnings call next week, because we all know that the earnings numbers are not going to be that great. We're going to want to see the margins, and we're going to want to see how energy margins looked, and maybe the energy dollars come in a little stronger than we thought because of the lumpiness. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things we don't know about the earnings themselves, but I think people are going to be paying more attention to what Elon Musk's mood is after the earnings numbers come out. Is he excited and having a lot of fun? I think that's probably going to be the case. But that's also going to be expected. And then also, what kind of guidance is he going to give? Not necessarily, he might give some automotive guidance for the second half. Maybe they're seeing enough in the numbers right now to make some guesses about the second half, and maybe he's done that before. Maybe not. Maybe he doesn't give any guidance on the cars at all. I'll give you some guidance. I think the third quarter should be amazing, and if the Model Q comes out in the fourth quarter, then maybe the fourth quarter will do well also. The bigger deal would be if we get the final piece in the puzzle. Should be FSD, full self, FSD. So many three-letter words around today. Can't keep them all straight. FSD unsupervised, that would be a total game changer. So if we could get that by the fourth quarter, that will make the fourth quarter great. Okay, so inflation numbers about as expected as I mentioned, but guess what? There is zero evidence of the tariffs impacting. Zero. It was all about housing and energy costs. Nothing in there about tariffs. Nothing. Food was up a little bit, more than I think people expected. NVIDIA is up sharply this morning because they're going to start selling China again. That has really given them a pop today. And bank earnings and their guidance look quite good for the first three banks that reported this morning. Tesla Roddy has this. Tesla China saw 12,300 new vehicles insurance registrations in the last week, marking a 145% increase from the prior week's 5,000. Yeah, well, first week is usually really low. Second week's usually low too, but AJ says, no, this is about in line. The surge seems to be bolstered by strong domestic demand for the Tesla 2, their two models, the Y and the 3. Solid June performance in China. Yeah, we saw that. Of the 12,300 vehicles registered for insurance last week, more than 9,400 were Ys and 2,800 were 3s. Tesla introduced minor upgrades to the long-range Model 3 and Model Y on July 1, and the Model 3 received a slight price increase while Model Y pricing remained unchanged. And there's also, I believe, a 6-seater coming out. Maybe that'll start to impact sales later this quarter. Reuters has this. It says Tesla launched on Tuesday its Model Y for about $70,000 in India, a significant markup relative to its other major markets because guess what? India still has those high electric vehicle import duties. With deliveries estimated to start from the third quarter, we're already in the third quarter, the U.S. automaker is targeting a niche electric vehicle segment in India that accounts for just 4% of overall sales in the world's third largest car market. Take into consideration, however, India is very high tech, and the folks who have money are techie. They're going to be very interested, I think, in electric as well as Tesla, the brand. Larry Goldberg said last night, and he knows India very, very well, says he thinks Tesla will do very well in India. It will compete mainly with BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Kia, and then there's Tata. And then Tesla opened its first showroom in Mumbai on Tuesday and begins taking Model Y orders on its website, marking its long-awaited entry into India. For now, Tesla will import cars into the country where tariffs and related duties can exceed 100%, driving up prices to consumers. Tesla's Model Y rear-wheel drive is priced at about 6 million rupees. We said $70,000. So that would compare to like a $45,000 in the United States. So not quite double. As the media only at the media only event in the showroom, Tesla displayed two Model Y cars made in China and its supercharger, which it will install at 8 different locations in Mumbai and around New Delhi. Expected to open its next showroom in New Delhi. We are here to create the ecosystem. We have to invest in the infrastructure, including the charging infrastructure, and they're going from zero and need to get that up quickly. Grappling with excess capacity in global factories, not so much. They don't have that much excess capacity in China, but they do have it in the United States and Germany. Tesla has adopted a strategy of selling imported vehicles in India despite the duties and levies. The U.S. EV maker has long lobbied India for lower import tariffs on the cars, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's officials remain in talk with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to lower these levies. Tesla's U.S. factories also do not currently make the right-hand drive vehicles that are required in India. Although India's road infrastructure has improved, traffic discipline like lane driving is still rudimentary. EV chargers are far and few, and stray animals, including cattle and pothole on the roads, are a big hurdle even in the cities. In the future, we wish to see research and development manufacturing done in India, and I'm sure at an appropriate stage, Tesla will think about it, according to Devendra Fadnavis, who is the chief minister. Okay, so this is Randy Kirk. Hit the like, subscribe, and notify because why? Why do you hit notify? Do you know about notify? If you hit the notify button, I'm on 3 times a day, and 2 times a day you usually get somebody with me, which makes it far more entertaining than me just alone. So later today, that combination will be one of your real favorites now, which is Nicholas Gibbs. He'll be on with me at about 5:15, 5:20 California time. And then at 7:45 will be part 2 of Brian White. And we've already got that it's already been, we've already recorded that. And I can tell you it was a lot of fun, super interesting. So you'll look for that tonight. But if you don't hit the notify button, then you might miss us. So hit notify, but in order to do notify, you have to be a member. You have to, not a member, you have to be a subscriber. Now, being a member is a good idea too. It's only, I think, a couple of bucks a month or whatever. You could be a member here on YouTube, or you could join Patreon, or you can also become a subscriber on X to my activity there. MarketWatch says this: the consumer price index rose 0.3% last month. The government said Tuesday, and that matched Wall Street's forecast. So the headline number came in exactly as expected at 0.3. Higher gasoline prices and the cost of shelter drove the bulk of the increase in inflation last month. There were only scattered signs of rising prices from the Trump administration's tariffs. You got to keep in mind, less than 35% of the U.S. business, the GDP in the United States, something around 35 or less, is material things that you can hold in your hand. Okay, products, and the rest is services. 65% is services. So you got 35% of the GDP. 35% of what they're measuring here is products. Okay, Of that 35% of the market, you've only got about 15%, I think it's 15% of GDP is imported products. So that's less than half of all products that you buy are imported from somewhere. Now, some of those, and the average of those imported products is going to be around, the tariff is going to be around 15%. So if you can multiply 15% of 14, you're going to find that comes out to around 0.4. So if all of that hit last month, it would raise what would have been, let's say, 2.6 to 3.0. That'd be 0.4. That's all we're talking about, folks. I keep saying this. That's the maximum. As a result, the crucial core rate of inflation rose a more modest, only 0.2%, and that was expected by some to go to 0.3. The core rate strips out the food and the gasoline and is viewed by the Fed as a better predictor. It's not just the gasoline, it's all energy, food and energy. The overall rate of inflation in the past year climbed to 2.7 for the year from 2.4. That's on the headline number. And on the core number, it went up from 2.8 to 2.9. And many folks were thinking that that would be a 3.0. So we had a beat, depending on who you were following and whose expectations you were watching. On the core, it was a beat. And that's why the market was tending to be up this morning. And there was, early on, the 10-year was actually down a little bit, but people sat there and thought about it for a while, and I guess they decided that this is still an up move, and it's definitely an up move compared to last month. The Fed is aiming to return inflation to the 2%. We know that tariffs could stroke more inflation depending on how high they are raised and how long they are kept in place. Yet many economists and top Fed officials now believe the effect on inflation is likely to prove small and short-lived, which you would know if you've been following me, because I've been talking about this since last year. I've had Jeff Lutz on, who's an expert, even more of an expert than I am in international trade. He's traded in more countries and more continents than I have, but I've traded in 4 continents and I don't know, 30 countries or something like that. So I do know a lot about import-export. I've been doing it my entire life. And I told you that this was not going to have an impact. Big picture, higher inflation stemming from the tariffs has been expected to show up in June, but it's only in dribs and drabs. Inflation is still fairly tame compared to a few years ago and doesn't appear likely to spike again, which I've been telling you. Even so, most senior Fed officials seem content to wait for further confirmation from inflation reports for July and August before deciding to reduce borrowing costs again. They also want to, from July, so the August and September numbers. They also want to wait and see how trade negotiations play out. And again, as I pointed out over and over and over again, and a couple of other people have also noted, the Fed should not be using tariffs as any part of how they're making their decisions. It's a price increase. It is not inflationary. It's a price increase. They don't take anything else out. They don't say, oh, we're going to only follow this now. We're only going to make the decision based on this now. No, they don't do that. Only tariffs, and only under Trump. It's the only time they ever mention it. It's political and it's tiresome. The Empire State business numbers, their manufacturing numbers came out today, and it's actually quite good. Business activity picked up slightly in New York State, according to firms responding to the Empire State Manufacturing Survey. The headline, General Business Conditions Index climbed 22 points to 5.5 from a negative. Its first positive reading since February. New orders edged higher and shipments increased. Delivery times lengthened and supply availability continued to worsen. Inventories grew significantly. Employment expanded for a second consecutive month, and the average work week also increased. You'd think the markets would be up just on that. Input price, however, prices also did pick up, but the pace of selling price increases held steady. Capital spending plans grew. Firms remained optimistic about the outlook. Says the General Business Conditions Index climbed 22 points to 5.5. New orders index rose 16 points to 2.0. And unfilled orders declined. The inventories index rose 15 points to 15.6. Just down the line, everything. Employment expanded. The index for number of employees rose 5 points. Firms remain optimistic. The index for future general business conditions edged up to 24.1, suggesting that on the whole, businesses expected activity to increase in the months ahead. New orders and shipments are expected to increase, and supply availability is expected to be little changed. Capital spending plans picked up. Now, this news just breaking. Treasury, what's wrong with my mouth today? Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said after today's inflation report, one thing that Wall Street economists got wrong early on was that tariffs were going to cause a substantial price level rise, which has not happened. Trueflation is at 1.82% this morning, well under the 2% number. This is a immediate number. This is measuring right now, not a month ago. This is measuring what's taking place now. It has come down from over 2% to into the high levels like 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, right around there. That is slightly up from yesterday. The VIX has dropped to 16.5. Maybe we'll double check that to make sure, but it was down sharply this morning. And then Trump is sitting at 47. Not surprising, as people are a little bit anxious about the immigration thing and very anxious about the Epstein thing. Who knows? I think his numbers will pop back up later as people start seeing this economy begin to gain power. All right, let's take a look and see just where things are. Let's start with Tesla. As always, Tesla at this point is down 0.03%. Mostly been up this morning, but recently it's been right about even, bouncing up and down at about zero. NASDAQ is up 0.67. That's probably mostly on NVIDIA. Dow Jones is down 0.55, and the S&P is down 0.05. So very flat this morning. The Magnificent Seven are mostly up. Meta and Apple, Meta is the only other one besides Tesla that's down, and Tesla, I said, down barely. And then NVIDIA up 4.62. It's probably an all-time high. I didn't check. 171.65. And as mentioned, the VIX is up a little from where it was. It was 16.5. It's now 16.85, but still very much risk on. And of course, all these are records that we're talking about right now in terms of the NASDAQ and et cetera. So we've got the Cathie Woods are all down this morning, and that's probably because of this. We've got the 10-year up 4 basis points to 4.467. I believe, so you may remember that it hit 4.5. I told you at the time when it was 4.5, it could not hold 4.5. So like everything else, the bond market has, psychological levels and peaks, things that you can look at and go, okay, so what we might see is an attempt to cross 4.5. My guess is it gets rejected, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Okay, we have got oil up. Down a little bit this morning, 37 cents, 66.61. So oil has now been stuck right around this number, 65, 68, 66, right in this number for a while. Natural gas up 0.63% this morning at 3.488. Also been right in this range for quite a while now. It's kind of been stuck. Gold is down $2 this morning, 33.56, so a little higher than our 33.33, but not a great deal. Silver down 0.95, almost a full percent, 38.37. So that's back to that old all-time high. And then copper down 0.31 at 5.53, where it's been it's been around 5.50 since the tariffs were added there. By the way, we talked about the other day that the Pentagon had put a lot of money into that mine. I'm forgetting TM, not TM. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the mining company, but anyway, that does the rare earth minerals in the United States. They picked up an order from Apple today for $500 million worth of rare earths and maybe magnets as well. Didn't read the whole article. Bitcoin is down almost 3,000 this morning to 117,000. And that is everything that we've got. By the way, one of the things that was also impacting the tariffs, the inflation this morning was meat. I haven't looked into why meat is up a lot compared to everything else. Baked goods are up. Don't know why, because eggs are down. So, but that's where the main part of the food price problem is in meat. Also in poultry to a lesser extent, but mostly in red meat. Okay, you got to remember, come back tonight and see Nicholas Gibbs, and then come back after that and see Brian White, and sign up, do all that kind of stuff. Help me pay for this channel. I think there was one more thing. Oh, should we look at Tesla just one more? Well, last night would have been Brian White, where we were talking about what were we talking about? Go back and look at it anyway. I'll put the card right here. I know it's hard for me to remember these things, but it was really good. I know it was really, really good. We had a lot of fun with it. Okay, so Tesla still down 0.75, 314.52. And with that, I will tell you, it's been great talking to you.